It's made more money than we ever dreamed of.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Price Check number 31? 31, I think. Maybe 32. I don't know. I've been doing these every day, but it's been hard to keep track. My name is Octavian. It's good to have you all along. For anyone who is new to the series and just joining us now, I will give a brief explanation of what it is we do here. I'm going to be grabbing a stash tab full of loot, pricing it as I go, and giving my justification behind all of my decisions as I price things. And I apologize if my voice sounds a little off today. I'm not feeling so great. I've had a cold the last few days, and it is just now kicking itself into gear, which is not very pleasant, but hopefully I'll be able to get through the episode without too many interruptions from whatever it is going on in my throat. And, pardon. Hopefully we'll be able to find something neat to look at. So, we've got no life, very mediocre resistances, and I think this is just going to be vendored, not a great start. Mind laying speed, damage to the poison, fizz with claws, We've got a Shaper Touch 2-stone ring that is eye level 81, so that's worth something just by the base. Doesn't have any life, doesn't have any interesting Shaper mods or anything, so it really just will be worth whatever the base is worth, and we'll go ahead and check that in a moment here. No life, mediocre resists. Sambar Scepter is a great base. I don't think people are really looking to craft on Elder Scepters. Usually it's going to be a Shaper Scepter because Shaper has better mods for being in and offhand, which is where Scepters are seeing a lot of use right now in builds like Reeve or Blade Flurry or Sunder even, I suppose, where you can have an offhand weapon that just gives you a lot of extra stats without actually being, without actually contributing at all to your main hand DPS. We've got no resistances, no life, so that's going to be going over to the vendor. Meh, resists, no life, same there. A Wed Roll, that's pretty garbage, and nothing else really. Cold damage spells dual wielding, fire damage spells is a two-handed weapon, so that is just in and of itself not very synergistic. Nothing too great going on here. This is a pretty bad base as well. I mean, we could put this up for a few chaos. Maybe somebody buys it to craft on, but at this point in the league, I really doubt it. Yeah, I think that's just vendor trash, since it didn't roll well. Still worth picking up, though. Level 20 remote mine, place an additional mine. That mod has sold for me a few times on decent helmets, but this helmet is not decent otherwise. Plus 7 life is not what we're looking for at all. Decent collection of stats. No life or resists, though, really. Same thing here. Yeah, nothing really to speak of on that one. We've got some flat LE to bow attacks. Actually, 3 separate rolls for that. Tier 2, Tier 4, and Tier 5, though. So, I think that's just going to be vendor food. 58 life, not very good. Nothing really impressive on this ring. Some flat fizz. That's not a very high tier. It is a coral ring base, so even if this had a mediocre life roll, it could potentially have been sellable, but without one, it's just garbage. 16 life. Corsair swords have not been selling by the base, and that's not a very good weapon. On a sword like this, you're going to be looking for like attack speed, percent fizz, flat fizz. There's some really cool shaper mods, things like fizz as extra LE, those you might also look for. But really, it's just the core of a good weapon, which is going to be attack speed, flat fizz, percent fizz, and crit rolls like crit multi and crit chance. None of which are on this weapon, so it's vendor food. Got life, we got fire damage to spells wielding a two-handed weapon. Not particularly relevant to most builds. Yeah, nothing great going on there either. Life does catch my attention, but the other rolls have to be decent. Eternal Sword is one you might be looking for as your main hand. I think it's a pretty decent base for one-handed swords. But this doesn't have any rolls that would encourage that, and it's also not got any rolls that scream offhand to me. Aside maybe from that global crit multi, but it's not a very good roll, and it's not accompanied by anything else. Attack speed, area damage, cold damage to spells. Yeah, that's just vendor trash. Alright, well, not a super encouraging first inventory, but I guess they can't all be the same as that last episode. Nothing great on that. I mean, a decent amount of resists, a good dex roll. No life, though. So, get rid of that. And we can go ahead and just check the value of these bases here. Let me get over to the browser window. 2 stone. It was Shaper Touch and eye level 81. So, as I will do at least once per episode, this is purely to show you guys how to search for a base. It's really simple. You put in the base name, you put in the item level, you put in Shaped, or Elder as the case may be. And we're looking at just 5C baselines, so At least that's 5 chaos. And then a Sambar Scepter, that's Elder Touched and eye level 81 as well, is likely not going to hold any value, but we'll check. Yeah, 2C is just vendor food.
So there you are.
Here you are, Furici. And we can go ahead and list that Shaper Test Ring for 5. And back in game we go. Let's grab some more junk, as I'm sure most of it will be.
You want something?
Alright, let's start on this side of the inventory for a change. And shaking it up, guys. Got some chaos damage spells, fire damage, rolling a tuned weapon. The chance to block if you've been damaged recently is actually pretty useful. I've used that in a few builds, but it has to be like alongside some other decent rolls. That's what I like to term a value added stat, where it's not going to carry an item by itself, but if it's alongside something good, it will add a good amount of value. That's just a horrible ring. That's worth something by the base, and it's not worth something by the rolls, so probably we'll just look up how much a Lapis Amulet that is Elder Touch is worth. Probably around 10C. I think that's about what it was last time I checked something similar. We got life and a collection of res, but everything else in this amulet is just pretty garbage, so, or ring even. It's just pretty garbage. Early in the league, like really early in the league, that would definitely sell, but at this point it's way too late. Most of this is just junk. I do like to see flat fizz to attacks. That's really useful for a lot of builds that have a weapon or some sort of setup that they have low base DPS to start with, but they have a really valuable effect, like Facebreaker, for instance. You get that more unarmed damage and the crit multi, but your base DPSs are obviously really low since you have to use unarmed attacks. So adding flat fizz to attacks is pretty much the #1 way to scale Facebreaker, and a lot of other builds as well, things like Terminus Est. Power Charge on crit is not going to save that, and Lathi is not a base that will sell. I mean, I don't think there's any staff bases that would really sell. Plus 1% crit strike chance to socketed spells is nice. If that were a hybrid life roll, yeah, it's not, because there's no flat armor. So we can't actually craft life onto this. I don't think the +1 crit chance is going to be enough to save it from having only about 40-ish life. Some flat chaos to spells, interesting, but not good enough to sell on the basis of just that. Fortify, movement speed, no. That's pretty damn garbage. It's got a good crit multi-roll, that's about it. Level 20 faster attacks and a bunch of junk. I don't even think you'd want faster attacks on your wand. Not the support, at least. Nothing going on here that's all that interesting. A pretty high attack speed roll and some wed. But you're never going to see it's used as the main hand, and that attack speed roll, I think, might be local? I'm not sure. 2% max cold resist, some garbage crit transfer spells. Some yes. The 2% max cold resist was a promising start, but everything else on that shield is pretty meh. No life, no resists. 55 int, but no explicit life. And the ES roll is not high enough to justify. Nothing particularly synergistic. And just garbage. Alright, well, oh, one more. Yep, also trash. Well, this has not been a particularly encouraging episode, but, you know, I suppose it happens sometimes. It'll at least be a somewhat short one. And we can go ahead and check the price on a Lapis Amulet base that is eye level, what is this, 81? Yes. Eye level 81 and Elder Touched. I imagine 5, 10 chaos, something like that. Yep, 6. So, we'll just put it up for 5, get a quick sale. And the last little bit. Hopefully we find something more worthwhile in this pile. But this can definitely happen. I mean, you can have multiple stash tabs full of loot that don't end up giving you anything worth your time. But, you know, just like last episode, you can also find a ring or an amulet worth like 5 or 6x, so you gotta check. I guess you don't have to, but you should. Junk. We got 33 life, very little else. Some flat fizz, nothing else at all. 50 life, I like that. Cold damage to spells roll, that seems pretty high. Yeah, tier 2. 50 life is actually perfect. So, that alone is worth something. And then dodge if you've been hit recently. So that is a solid jewel. That we can definitely sell. Alright. Found something good. Something redeeming. Got minion life. a life roll and a resist roll. I have sold helmets with minion life on them before. They had another support though. I think the one that I sold had minion life and immolate, which is particularly good for some of like the burning specters that are seeing play at the moment. Cold damage to attacks, unholy might. Meh. 77 life, a resist. I like that. Chance to bleed, not particularly impactful. A little bit of flat accuracy. I mean, we'll just put it up for like 5C. I doubt it'll sell, but maybe. 71 mana, some ES. No, I don't think that's good enough. Pretty junk diamond ring. 48 life is really good. Some lightning damage to attacks and bow attacks. A tier 2 roll in the bow attacks. A pretty garbage one of the regular lightning damage to attacks, but it's a very high life roll, so we can list that. That's not a very high life roll at all. And plus 9 life. Alright, so somehow this last little inventory was the most interesting one. Though I was being particularly forgiving to these two items. 59 life is okay. I don't think the rest of the ring is good enough, though, to carry just okay as far as the life roll is concerned. So we'll just throw both of these up for that, and this will start here. And we're actually going to go ahead and do a price check on this jewel, because we haven't had any in-depth price checks this episode, and I feel like this one is worth it. It's not a particularly complicated one. Let's just get a max life roll, an explicit max life roll instead of total, so then we aren't including strength rolls. And we'll go with like 45. Cold damage to spells. And we've got a pretty damn high roll on that, right? Here we got a tier 2. 15 to 22 is 37, divided by 2 is 18, 19, somewhere in that range. So let's just do an average of 15 on that. Hell. Let's do an average of 18 on that. And let's just see what that's worth together. 129 results. We're looking at 5C as the base. And we do have a third potentially useful mod of 2% dodge chance for attacks and spells if you've been hit recently. Which I would say is, you know, maybe about as useful as damage against abyssal monsters in a lot of cases, or 2% pen if you haven't killed. Though that's really nice for trap builds. The pen, trap, and mines. Since technically if the trap or mine is the one that is the thing that kills the enemy, you didn't get the kill, so you get that pen continually. Same thing with totems. Looks like we could put this up for around 10 chaos, probably. Since a lot of these, like, third mods here, things like a resist or, like, phasing on kill, that sort of thing, are just extra utility that is about matched by our 2% dodge chance, I'd say. I mean, it's kind of comparing apples and oranges, so it's a little bit tough, but I'm personally an apple man, so that's neither here nor there, really. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. A bit of a shorter episode, but, you know, that's going to happen sometimes. If you did enjoy and you want to catch the rest of the series, I would recommend checking out the episode just previous to this. There was some really interesting finds in that one. But yeah, you can also, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel for any further updates to the series and any other videos I put out. And you can follow me on Twitch to catch me streaming live every single day. As I said, I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you in the next one.